Welcome to part 2 of the series of videos that will help you with PowerPoint Project 2, where we are enhancing a presentation about yoga and meditation with picture shapes and word art. If you haven't worked on with the previous video, you'll need to play that one because this one starts on page 82 of the book, about halfway down. We've already saved the presentation and have gotten the themes and 4 slides already set up. So with that in mind, I'll go straight to the presentation where we left off, and you'll need to open this if you have not already done so for the previous session. We'll start now and begin inserting pictures into a couple of slides and changing their appearances, doing some resizing and formatting some of the slide backgrounds. Now, what the book will say on page 83 is if you have a flash drive in the computer, you may or may not have put your pictures on your flash drive. That's going to depend on the individual. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the book cannot address the millions and millions of people that have their files saved in different places, who have different learning styles, who have different kinds of computers. And so you have to have a little flexibility there and respect the publisher who's doing the best that he or she can with it. The publishers in this book happen to be a man and a woman. That's why I said he or she. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to slide number 3, and I just go over here to the, I can use the page up or page down buttons on my keyboard, or I can just click on slide 3, and this is the one that has the Strengthened Body title written on the side. So we're going to go to the Insert button on the ribbon and choose the word Picture right here. It's over almost on the extreme left, almost all the way to the left. There's no arrow there, so just click on the word Picture. And I want to emphasize here very strongly to the beginner students or the more nervous people on computers that your pictures may be in a different place from mine, and I want to be emphatically clear about that. So I'm going to click Computer. If you don't see Computer on the side of the screen, just scroll down with the scroll bar, click the word Computer. Now mine, and your particular drive might be there. Mine happened to be on my desktop, so again, yours will probably be in a different place. I happen to have a folder that has all this material already stored, and you just have to find the particular folder, and hopefully your instructor has shown you how to navigate among your files. Mine happened to be organized like this, and I'm looking for a particular picture, and that particular picture happens to be on the turn to the next page, and then find the picture that says Hands Yoga. I'm looking, I think it says Hands Yoga. That's what I was, yeah, it says Hands Yoga. That particular direction is on the bottom of page 83. There's some little red bullets. Remember I said to look at the tiny red bullets as well. And almost at the bottom of the page it says scroll down and click Hands Yoga to select the file name. That's the one right here. It looks like it has looks like a gentleman's hand and forearm and maybe a warm-up suit. And I'll click that. You can either double click it or you can select it and click the word Insert, whatever is easier for you. And what will happen, it will automatically place that picture in this particular area because this particular slide is templated or designed so that the picture lands in that particular place. And so now it's in that little content placeholder over on the right, as you can see on the screen right now. Now to insert another picture, I'm going to go over to slide number 2. I'm on page 84 in your book at bullet or red circle number 1. Click on slide 2. And if I click that little icon to add the picture, I can go in and I'm going to click, you can either click the icon right there or you can go to Insert and choose Picture again. I'm going to click the placeholder. Instead of going up here to Insert Picture, which is perfectly okay, I'll actually show you what will happen if you do that just on the side. If I click Insert Picture right here, and let's suppose I chose barbecue grill for instance. It happened to be in the placeholder anyway. I'm going to undo that. Don't worry about if this confuses you. If you're strictly a book direction person, you're going to go to step 2, and depending on whether you're using a flash drive or your Dropbox or desktop or wherever you are, you're going to click on that little placeholder. It's just another way of inserting the picture. The same thing will come up, and we're going to look for a picture in step number 4 on page 84 that says Green Tank Meditation. These pictures should be alphabetical left to right. So we'll go down to the G's and choose Green Tank Meditation, and that's the guy that's obviously in much better shape than I am. You can again click it or double click it or click it and hit Insert, and that picture will land in place. Yes, he's in much better shape than I am. Alright, I'm going to go now on page 85, and you can either page down or click twice. You can do anything you need to get to slide number 4, and that's illustrated over on, in my case, over on the far left of my screen. So here's slide number 4, and I'll click Insert again on the ribbon, the Insert tab, choose Picture. I'm on page 85 now. And typically what PowerPoint will do is it will go to the last place you visited, and that's the reason I didn't have to go through all this computer, jump drive, and go through all these little stages to level down to where the pictures are located. Because typically when you do some business on the computer as far as going to files and folders, it will typically go to the last place you visited, and that's the reason it's a little bit quicker this time than the time before. Now, in the little tiny red bullet, the second one on page 86, it says to click Arch Yoga. Now, notice the display in the book has a different listing from mine. They're listing the files by name only. I like where mine are showing pictures, and I'm going to show you on the side, even though it's not in the book, I want to show you this anyway. While you're in this particular window, if you go over to the far right, there's a little area that says change your view, and if you click the little arrow right there, what they have in the book is something called list, or in fact I think they actually have details, and that's what you're seeing in the book. You're seeing the titles only. You can change that. There's no law against saying you have to do exactly what the book says in every situation. You can click list and just see the names of the files without any kind of details about when they were created. What I happen to have on mine is, I think I either had medium or large icons. I think I actually had large icons for video purposes. And I like that better personally because you can see the pictures that you're choosing, especially if you are a very highly visual learner. We're choosing Arch Yoga, which is the one under the A's, the very first one in the list, and I'm going to double click it instead of clicking Insert. And it will put it in the center of the screen. And that's just by default because this is a custom slide. It didn't have a theme with it when we created it because we chose blank slide earlier, if you remember. So by default, it puts it into the center of the screen. Now, it's asking you to move the picture in the second bullet in step number 3 so that you can get an idea how to move pictures independently without being highly dependent on the book. I'll go to the side, I'll step aside here again and give you something universal for you beginners and or more nervous computer students. The mouse pointer shape is really important when you're moving and resizing objects in the computer. And one thing that's very universal with computers, all computers and all software packages, I don't think I've ever found one that didn't work. If you click away from the picture, those little handles or those little white circles that were around it will disappear. But if you just give a quick click to the picture itself, it will show those handles. Those handles are important in many ways. If you grab one of those handles or one of those corners, which is a tendency for us to automatically do, your mouse pointer will change shapes into 2 little arrowheads. I hope you can see this. And if you hold your mouse button down and it changes to a little crosshair, you can resize a picture by grabbing one of the corners. You can always undo it if you're not happy with it. And hopefully all of you know about the undo button, which is the little the little blue arrow up in the high left corner of your screen where it says undo, resize. It will undo all your tasks. You can also hold down the control key and use the letter Z like in zebra. And I'm going to actually do that so it goes back to normal. That little green circle allows you to rotate the picture. So if you want to turn it around like that, you could do it. If you go inside the picture, your mouse will change to 4 black arrowheads with a white arrow. That is the universal move button. And you can hold your mouse, if you pick it in the center, just not one of the corners, and you can move it a little higher up. If you're not totally perfect with this step, we can always change it later. You can also use your arrow keys on your keyboard if you want to really fine pin where you move it. Okay, now what PowerPoint has also allowed us to do in this new version 2010 compared to 2007 is a means of being able to change the color intensity of the picture. We can change the brightness and the contrast, sometimes even the colors itself. You can have a darker intensity, you can even make them black and white. And we're going to do that on page 87. With the Arch Yoga picture selected, and how do you know it's selected? It's because you got those white circles around it. If you have it like this, just click on the picture, just one quick click of the mouse inside, and those little handles will show up. And whenever we have a picture selected, in order not to make the ribbon at the top of the screen too cluttered, the computer's basically saying, oh, you've clicked that picture, you might want to do some special enhancements to this picture. So it's saying, I'll give you a lot more options that you can use. So when that picture is selected, you should be able to click the choice right below the word Picture Tools on the ribbon that says Format, and your ribbon changes completely, and you have some other options that you can choose. So we're going to go over, according to step 1, page 87, the first bullet, and choose Corrections. Now you can click directly on Corrections, or probably what would work just as well would be to just hit the little arrow, and it will give you several choices for adjusting the way the picture looks, whether you want it sharper, softer, whether you want the brightness or contrast differently. And they're saying in the second bullet, under red circle number 1, point to brightness, 20% contrast added, and negative 40%. I guess the negative 40 would be the brightness being reduced on it. If we point to it, and then we can point to it, and of course anything we point to will have some slight changes to it. I'm not sure on the video how clear this is, but if you just hover over it without making a choice, this is the way it works for you. And we're going to actually, the book has a habit of asking you to point to something so you can see the changes, and then it will say click it. Someone may say, well, why don't they just say click it right off? They want you to realize that by hovering over the choice that you can preview the appearance before you make a choice. Sort of like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game when you're deciding about choice A, B, C, D on the game show, and Meredith says final answer, and that's when you're locking it in. The click is sort of like saying final answer. Excuse me. So I'm going to find brightness positive 20, and sometimes it will tell where it is. Fourth picture in the first row. And there it is. So I'll click that to make the commitment. So there's the style for that picture. And that will apply a picture style. The style can also mean you're going to put a little frame around it like we did with the found dog in that flyer back in Word. We might have some angles that we want to have to it, so we can enhance that a lot. So the slide 4 is still selected on page 88. You probably already have the format tool selected, but if you don't, just click it again, and you'll see the ribbon will be more oriented toward picture enhancements rather than text or words that are being enhanced. Now remember where the More button is. In step 1 it says to click the More button in the Picture Styles Gallery. Here's the Picture Styles Gallery across the top, and the More button is always going to be in the lower right hand corner. It's just an arrow, which will give you additional options. We're going to point to one that says Soft Edge Rectangle. I think we did this in the exercise with the found dog in Word. And again, you can see a preview with what color. Some are rounded, some are black, some are white, etc. And we're going to click it, and that's looks like the last one in the first row. Rows are going across, of course. And if I click that, we'll have that black frame, for lack of a better word, associated with it. Let's go to slide 3, and you can click away from it and see the actual style. Kind of a nice little frame around it. Let's go to slide 3 and do the same thing. This is the bottom of page 88. And we'll click the picture so that we have the handles on it. That will bring up the picture tools. So go up to the ribbon and click Format, following the steps on page 88 at the bottom. And in this case, we're going to click the More button under Picture Styles. Remember, we did kind of a black frame on the first one. And we're going to find the one that says Reflected Perspective Right. Which, knowing me not being a visual person, I'll have to find and look around. Hopefully it won't take a long time to find that. Most students find it faster than I do. Now I fudged a little bit so you wouldn't have to watch me hunt for it on a video. Reflected Perspective Right is on the 4th row going across and the 2nd column. You can hopefully will see it on my screen. And it gives you a kind of an angled to the right situation. I'm not describing this very well, just click it. It's okay. So when you click that, notice that the handles are in the standard form where we had the original picture selected. You know, so they're not exactly surrounding the angled picture, but it's giving you an idea of how it works. It's the picture's located there as far as the computer's concerned, but we have a different angle to it. Let's go to slide number 2. which is step 5 on that same page, page 88 in your book. And we'll click the picture, click Format again, click the More button. Step 6 says to find reflected rounded rectangle. And there's a rounded rectangle. Let me see if I can find that one. If I don't find it in the next second, I'll play the video magic with you guys, and because I'm not very good at finding stuff that easily. Looks like row 1, 5th one going across. Reflected rounded rectangle. It's got the rounded edges, what's happening. So click that, and we have the picture enhanced. And again, notice the handles of the original picture where it was the typical straight edged rectangle are still there, but the roundedness is just showing, hey, that's the effect we're using. Or I guess I should use the word style right there. Picture effects are in page 89. This applies probably more to the art expert than it does to someone like me. And effects can be shadows, they can be 3D effects, something called beveling, and we'll play with those also. Slide 2, picture is selected on page 89, and we'll click something called picture effects. Picture effects is, in my case, right above the guy's heads, right past the picture styles, and you'll see picture effects. You can click the word. I have a tendency to click the arrow, and you have some other subdivisions as well. Preset, shadow, reflection. You can read these all the way you like. I'm going to point to glow, which is the second bullet on page 89. I point to the word glow in the picture effects. I'm going to point to orange 11 point. Again, if you don't see it in the list immediately, you can scroll down. If it allows you to scroll, apparently this one doesn't need to scroll. So, and point, by the way, is a measure of thickness or size. If you're talking about the size of letters of the alphabet, the 72 points is equal to 1 inch in journalism terms. The standard reading text on a computer is usually 10 or 12 point size. And that's referring, in this case, to the thickness of the picture effect here. So we're going to choose orange 11 point glow, accent 1 color. That's the first column where it's got the orange. It's the third row, first column. So I'll point to that. And again, if you move to others, you'll see the effects, like the yellow one really shows up typically on this screen. You can tell what the effect's going to be. So click orange 11 point glow, bullet number 2 on page 90. And we have that slight little orange background. You may not see much to it, but it's there. Alright, step 3. We're going to leave the same picture selected, click picture effects, and this time we're going to choose bevel. Beveling, if I'm understanding correctly, is where you add a kind of a 3D, a depth to it. Kind of a 3D look sometimes, or maybe a real thick board that makes it look kind of a 3D look, and that's what bevel means. You're going to point to the one that says angle. That's the leftmost one in the second row. It's using angle, and click on that. And you may not see a literal 3D here, but that's what the effect is supposed to be. Let's go to another picture and do the same thing. Let's go to, on the bottom of page 90, let's go to slide 3. We've got that right angled thing going on there. I'll click on the picture itself so I can get the format gallery to show up. We'll go to picture effects there, which you've done already. We'll choose glow. And we'll choose orange 11 point accent 1, which we did earlier. I'm going a little faster here, step 3. Step 4, picture effects. Choosing bevel. And this time, in step 5, we're going to choose convex. You might remember in physics or some math or science class the difference between convex and concave. The third bevel in the second row, it says convex, and choose that one. So now keep that slide 3 picture selected on page 91, and we'll click the picture border button, which is right above picture effects. And point to the word weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, like thickness, so to speak. And again, here's this measurement of points. The larger the number, the thicker the border, the more intense the color, the larger the letters of the alphabet are. So we're going to choose 1.5 points right here to give a thickness to that weight. Okay. We're almost finished with this part of the video, maybe a little bit longer than usual. With slice 3 still selected, I'm on page 92. I'm going to select the picture border button. We're just doing various effects with pictures. And we'll go to just the colors here. If we go in the red column, we have various shades of red that are accented differently. Some are thick or darker than others. We're going to choose red accent 3, which is on row 1, the 7th option. That's the very top one where I'm concerned. And again, if you point to any of those particular colors, you'll see the effects that are going to happen. There we go. Alright, bottom of page 92. I think you have the idea here. You just have to be careful with it. Don't be afraid. Go to slide 2. And we'll select the picture again in order for the format gallery to be available to us. Picture border. The weight, step 3. And choose 1.5 points for that thickness. Again, always rewind or pause this video as you need to. Page 93, bullet circle number 5. Don't forget that, receives the skip step. Click the picture border button. And we'll use the same red accent 3 color that we did earlier by clicking that top one in the first row. And we have that done. The last thing I think we're doing is doing resizing of these pictures. To resize the picture, you can do it a couple ways. You can enter exact measurements, or you can just resize it and they automatically happen to you. Let's look at slide 3. We've got the forearm and the part of the leg displayed right here, this particular angle with the toe muscles. With the picture selected, and you may not see the shape height right here, but if you click on the picture itself, again, you don't necessarily need the formatting tool select. You probably already have it selected. And if you go over here to the far right corner, you'll see the height and width of the picture in inches, and it's done proportional. You can very easily take a picture and stretch it where it's not very proportionally correct, where the guy's arms or head or legs are distorted. You want to be careful about that. So the ratio, in this case, is a perfect square with 5.77 for both the height and the weight. But if you have different dimensions, sometimes that ratio of length to width, so to speak, or height to width, needs to stay there, so that the distortion is not there, not talking about. If I click the shape height box, I can select the number right there. Let's say I type in a 6 right there. If I type the 6, and I can hit enter right there. Notice that the width also changed so that we keep those proportions in there. If it didn't do it automatically, it should go ahead and make sure that there's a 6-inch height and width on there, just in case something didn't happen. If I go to slide 4, which has that slide that we moved earlier with the person that's bending, which I can't do anywhere near that. If I select the picture, I can also go over, I can move the photo slightly over. I'm just going to use my arrows to move it over. It doesn't have to be precise, and we'll deal with it as we get on into the project. And for the height, we're going to change it to 3. Just go in and just type the height as 3 right there, hit enter, and the width will automatically change in proportion to it. If you need to move it over slightly, just use the arrows or grab it with your mouse and you can move it over as you need to. Don't worry too much about the exact position right there. I would go ahead and save this with the same name. If you click File and choose Save, it will give you the same name that you did before for your picture. But if you insist on using Save As to make sure that it's on the desktop, what will happen when you click Save, it may ask you to replace it. That just means you're updating what we've done already in this video. So click Yes, and we'll be ready for the next part of this exercise in another video. Hopefully this has helped you out, and if you have any questions, make the appropriate contacts.